Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Bonolo Medise, and thank you so much for taking time to join us this afternoon. Today, we're chatting all things block on O, 4 on O. It is a block development, but I'll tell you more about it. And I'm sure Andrew, who's joining me today, Andrew is from our partners at Narrative, and he will be, giving us more insight about this property and telling us why it's such a great investment. But without wasting any further time, I'm going to introduce Andrew. Andrew, welcome, and thank you again for chatting to me again as we chat about our latest IPO on our platform.
Thanks, Benolo. Very nice to see you. These are always the highlight of my week. And thanks to all the investors for dialing into this webinar. Looking forward to getting into the details of 4 on O with everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. So on the 6th of October, time flies so quickly. I can't believe we are, mid-October. It's so crazy. But on the 6th of October, we launched our latest property, our latest IPO, which is our initial public offering. And it's called 4 on O. It is a block development, and Block is a developer, and they have multiple properties in Cape Town. And what's exciting about this is that we get to invest in one of those properties, which is called 4 on O. But for new investors, let us give them more insights about why they might want to consider this IPO and why it's such a great investment. So as I mentioned, 4 on O, I always say block 4 on O because it's a block development. So I'll try and drop the block from it, but it's very hard to, divorce the two because it is a property.
I'm sure you're doing a lot of advertising for them. I'm sure you'd be very happy about
it. So 4 on O is located in Sea Point in Cape Town. So let's chat more about the location. Why is Sea Point such a great area to have an investment in?
So historically, Sea Point and this area is broadly referred to as the Atlantic Seaboard, has been one of the top performing areas property-wise in South Africa. It's a very exclusive, and because of how well it's performed, it's become a very expensive area, which means that it's not accessible to the vast majority of South African property investors. So this is another aspect of the best part about Easy Properties that we keep advertising, is that we're able to provide investors with access to areas that otherwise would have been completely out of reach to the standard South African investor. So we're offering exposure to one of the top performing assets historically in the South African real estate market. If you ask me, I think Cape Town is one of the best cities in the world for travel, for leisure. It's going to remain a destination of choice for South Africans and for people from around the world. And I think that makes for a compelling property investment and something that I'd certainly like to own as an individual. I want exposure to that area. So I'm excited to see it on the platform.
And that's why, I think our platform is so exciting, is because it gives literally just about anyone that opportunity to invest in exclusive properties located in areas like Sea Point, with no minimums. So that's another common question that we get all the time. You guys have all of these amazing and exclusive properties and really amazing locations. Do I need, 10,000 rands minimum to invest in it? And the answer is no. You can literally invest into any property that's available on our IPO, that's live on our IPO at that point, with literally no minimums. You can invest any amount that you want or that you can. So, what impacts the rental income of properties in Sea Point in this area? And what's the rental demand like for properties in Sea Point?
So Sea Point is, as I've mentioned, it's a holiday destination of choice. So you've got the combination of visitors to Cape Town from outlying areas and from international locations. And then you've got the domestic demand of people who want to live in Sea Point year round. So we think that makes for an exciting for strong rental demand in this area. What I particularly like about 410 is that it's been built as a short-term lettable product. And what that means is that we're able to run our units as short stay accommodation. So it means we're not just signing long-term leases and placing tenants that way. We're also able to take advantage of short-term demand in the Cape Town property market, let our units for a limited number of days, 3, 4, 5 days at a time, on platforms like Airbnb and bookings.com. And historically, property owners in Cape Town have earned abnormally high returns from doing short-term rentals like that. So I think it's an exciting prospect for Easy Properties investors to potentially outperform on rental demand and also have exposure to an asset that's performed well historically.
Thank you so much for that, Andrew, because that was actually my second question about, is it, short term, is it long term rental? But thank you so much for highlighting that and for getting to that question. So we've had properties under development before. Is 410 ready? And even if it's not, is this something that investors should worry about?
It's a great question, and we have listed properties that are a year away from completion on Easy Properties, and we've listed properties that are basically complete and ready for occupation. 410, if you had to ask me percentage-wise, is probably 90% of the way there in terms of completion, and first occupation will be on the 1st of March next year. So we've got a couple of months away from this product being 100% complete. If anyone's in Cape Town, it's very clear to see that it's a stunning building. And if for the investors that have been fast enough and seen your social media posts, they'll know that we're actually hosting an event on the rooftop at 410 this coming Thursday. So there'll be social media posts coming from that event. We will be able to show people what it looks like on site, but very close to completion, and it's turned into a beautiful product.
And that's why I'm so excited about this week. It's actually a great week. We get to be in, in our investment. We get to meet, I think, everyone that has RSVP'd. If your hands have been on, quick on social media, you'd have seen that we have, as Andrew mentioned, we have an event on Thursday, and we still have a few slots available, so you can still RSVP. We'll be having sunset rooftop vibes, and you'll get to meet some of the Easy Properties team. But the most exciting thing about that is that the people that are at the event on Thursday, or that have RSVP'd in time for the event on Thursday, will get to participate in a raffle where you get a chance to spend the night at one of the block development properties, which I think is an amazing experience, considering, number one, the area, the type of developer block is, they focus on aesthetics, lifestyle. It's very stylish and modern. So if I was, probably not part of the EP team, I would definitely want to have a taste of that. Let's talk about the structure of block 410. How does it look? What can investors look forward to, just to entice people who are like, should I go, should I not? Upon completion, we've seen a couple of pictures, but what can investors look forward to?
So firstly, they can look forward to seeing Vanolo, who's one of the best dressed South Africans in social media. So that's a big attraction. But with regards to the development itself, as you referenced at the start of the webinar, Block are an incredibly experienced team, and their experience is predominantly in developing projects in this node. So they're very familiar with this area, and they've basically converted all of their expertise into this most recent project, which is 410. It's in line with all of their previous developments. It's a very modern, very slick, very raw and authentic product. It's got that New York type modern feel, and I think it creates a great sense of space in the apartments, and it's really been purpose built for people to enjoy being there. It's got all of the benefits of being in Sea Point, in that you've got incredible views and you can hear the ocean and you can walk to the promenade. There's a rooftop pool and a communal area where our event will be taking place. it's basically lifestyle goals. If you were to create a hashtag, it's as cool as it gets, as far as I'm concerned. We've bought. Yeah, I'm jumping ahead in terms of your questions again, so I'm not going to tell you what we've bought. I'm sure you're going to ask me that, but just a beautifully built product, delivered by an expert developer, and we think it's a very compelling investment as far as property in the Atlantic seaboard goes.
So before I get into the meat of things, you've already wanted to touch about the number of units we have bought. And I know that's a question that one of our investors has asked on here. So yeah, let's get into it. How many units have we bought?
So we've bought 8 apartments in this development. The entire development is 33 units. So we bought 8 of 33. So we own a material portion of this building as Easy Properties. We've bought studio apartments, so they range in size from early 30s to early 40 square meter size units, and that means that the ticket price, the actual purchase price that we're paying per unit, is an attractive entry price for this area. This is, for me, one of the unsung total victories about Easy Properties, because we're purchasing 8 units in the development and writing a big check, frankly, we're able to negotiate a material discount from the developer. So if I was to go and purchase a unit at this development myself, I would not be getting the same price that Easy Properties is getting, purely because we're really harnessing like collective buying power effectively. And the numbers are in the prospectus. We're getting about an 11.5% discount to market value. And on an apartment that's listed at 2 million or 2.2 million rand a unit, it means we're saving 200,000 rand an apartment. So that's material stuff. And in the property investment game, if you can save material amounts of money upfront, the whole return profile of your investment is going to be better. Your rental yield is going to be better, and your potential to unlock value when you sell it is going to be much higher.
Sure, that is really exciting, and I want to invest more and more and more. So that's what I'm going to do after here, simply because of how you've not even sold it to me, but now I'm convinced that this is an investment that I definitely don't want to miss.
Yes.
So let's dive more into money. Let's chat more about money, and I think that's a question that a lot of our investors would want to know. What is the assumed capital growth per year for this IPO, and what does that mean for new investors?
So at Easy Properties, we're not able to formally take a view and state a capital growth assumption. And that's because capital growth is something that no one can honestly tell you, right? Things change over time. No one can predict what the market's going to be like in 5 years' time. What we do in our prospectuses and in all of our financial projections on the website is we assume a capital growth rate, and we show what the return would be at a range of capital growth rates, so that investors can get a sense. If the property grows by 2.5% a year, then my return will be X. And if the property grows by 10% a year, then my property return will be Y. So I think our standard assumption, I know that our standard assumption in all of our projections is a 5% per annum capital growth rate. In the case of Cape Town, if you were to look historically, that would be a conservative assumption. So Cape Town has outperformed that 5% assumption going back in time. But like I say, no one knows what the future holds. And that's the element of risk in property investing and in all investing. But if the past is anything to go by, we can expect capital growth on this asset, and that's why we're investors in it.
Mm, absolutely. And after how long can investors, start to enjoy their capital gains? As everyone knows, investment or investing is a long-term process. So after how long can people, expect to enjoy their capital gains?
Sure. So just as a recap, there's 2 ways that investors into Easy Properties earn returns. The first way is from the distribution of rental income. So this is where Easy Properties tenants our units or runs them as short stay accommodation, collects all that income and declares it as a dividend to investors. And that happens on a quarterly basis. So every 3 months following your investment, you're going to be receiving your dividend income. And then to your question about the duration of the investment, we've stated in our prospectus that these really are property investment is a longer term game than share investment. And we're intending to hold these assets for a minimum of 5 years. And between year 5 and year 7, we'll look to exit our investments and distribute any capital or all proceeds, including capital gains, to our investors.
Sure. Thank you so much, Andrew, for that insight. So we definitely are going to get into the individual questions. Please ensure that you drop your questions in the Q&A section of the webinar, and then we will get to your questions at the end. So Andrew, I think another common question that we have, looking at our platform, we always look at the funding target. How far is this property doing? We've got 10 days, we've got 15 days until we reach the funding target. What is the funding target exactly?
So the funding target represents 70% of the purchase price of the property. So if we for the sake of round numbers, if Easy Properties is purchasing property to the value of 20 million Rand from a developer, that funding target that you see on the website is a target of 14 million Rand, which is 70% of the 20 million Rand target. How we fund purchases on Easy Properties is we take that 70% that we've raised from the collective investors, and we pair that with a 30% home loan facility from one of South Africa's lenders. And the 70 and the 30 make up the 20 million, or the 70% and the 30% make up the 20 million Rand purchase price. And that's how we pay for our property.
And that's why when the IPO season is available for people to invest into, they should, grab a hold of that opportunity.
Absolutely. And you can see we saw from you made the point the other day, our Belito IPO, it sold in I think one of our shorter durations that we've had to date. So the IPO window is getting shorter and shorter as the number of investors on our platform grows.
Absolutely. So I think, Andrew, people are enticed about foreign, or like I am. We've got a couple of questions around, can I attend the show? Where is it taking place? So I don't know if you want to highlight that again.
Yeah, I think I'm not in charge of admissions to the event. I think you can send Penolo a DM and she might approve your request. Yeah, the short story about the event is that on Thursday night this week, we've invited, there'll be a selection of EP investors at 4:00 at the property in Cape Town at 5 p.m. We'll be doing a tour of the property and having a look at the actual units we've purchased, and you'll see with your own eyes the quality of this product. We're serving some drinks. There'll be a couple of speeches from the developer and from us at Easy Properties, just to introduce some of the kind of key members of the team, etc. And just really an opportunity for our investors to meet the various people from the various teams, and as we're doing now, just to continue learning about property investment. We've done a few of these events before, and it's always an amazing group of people that come to these events. So I'm sure Thursday will be no exception.
Absolutely. And we still have a few slots available. So if you can go onto our Twitter page, we also have posted that on Facebook. We have an RSVP link, so you can just tap on that and secure your spot for 5 p.m. on Thursday, and we will be meeting in person. I can't wait to be, taking a tour of the place. And I know, parts of it are still under development. So we will be wearing our hard hats and, just make sure that if you're there, wear closed shoes and just be ready to meet your fellow investors, some of us from the EP team, the developer. I think I saw a question about who is the developer. The name is Block. And if you want to read more about them, you can go to www.block.co.za just to read more about Block
It's
property.
Block, B-L-O-K.
Yes, sorry.
Block spelled B-L-O-K.
B-O-B-L-O-K without the C. And just read more about their developer and what they've done and some of their properties. Awesome. And yes, definitely we will be broadcasting the event on social media. We have another question. Hey guys, what is the least and maximum amount anyone can invest in this investment property? You know, it's so upmarket, it's so exclusive. I'd also think that I'd need a lot of money for this property. But
you want me to take that one, B?
Yes, please.
So yeah, the premise of Easy Properties is that we make investments in these previously exclusive asset types available to everyone. The minimum that you can invest in this asset is R1, and the maximum, there's no maximum. So you can invest, and the returns to a person who invests R1 and the returns to a person who invests 10,000 Rand are exactly proportional. So no one's jeopardized by having to invest a smaller amount. Easy Properties is a sister company of Easy Equities, and you'll hear it said all the time about Easy Equities that it's not important that you start investing with a large amount of money. It's just important that you start. So this is an outstanding asset that's available on Easy Properties. And it's just important that you get exposure to good assets as soon as you can, and you let rental escalations and capital appreciation and all of these excellent market forces start to grow your money for you. So please don't feel as though having a smaller amount of money to invest would mean that you shouldn't invest in this.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anonymous also wants to know how much would each unit be rented for roughly?
So we've bought 8 units, and as I've mentioned, our strategy here is going to be to run these as short-term units. So our projections, which are included in the prospectus for this asset, we're projecting to receive in the vicinity of 17,000 Rand a month for these units. And that's an important distinction. This is not a long-term lease that's not paid by one person. That 17,000 Rand is made up of multiple stays from visitors to Cape Town, booking on platforms like Airbnb and bookings.com, et cetera, et cetera. That 17,000 Rand a month would work out to a net rental yield of around 6.2% after all of the costs of running these assets. There's potential for that number to move both ways, right? There's potential for, in COVID times, your rental returns are going to be under pressure, and you might get lower rental returns. And then there's holiday season in Cape Town and bull markets, etc., like in years gone by, where owners of property have significantly outperformed that number. So that 17,000 Rand is an estimate. There's potential for it to be higher or lower than that, but we think over the longer term we're going to be achieving numbers in that vicinity.
No, absolutely. We have a question from Simpiwe. So he is a beginner and he'd like to know what happens exactly after investing in a live property? I think that's a great question. And we never really talk a lot about this, but what happens after the IPO closes? Say we reach 100% with our funding target and it closes, what's the next step?
Sure. So as we dealt with in an earlier question, at the end of the IPO, we've raised 70% of the purchase price from investors. What we do at Easy Properties is pay that 70% into the conveyancing attorney's trust account, and it gets paid into the trust account pending transfer of the asset to us. So that's step one. Step two is that we sign a bond grant, which as I mentioned, we raise 30% bank funding for the purchase price of the property. We sign for our bond grant. and the bank, whichever bank is the lender in that case, we use SA Home Loans and we use Nedbank, we use ABSA, we use multiple lenders. That bank will send an instruction to the same conveyancing attorney saying that 30% funding has been granted for this purchase. The conveyancer takes our 70% and the bank's 30%, transfers that all across to the developer, and in exchange we receive the units that we've purchased. There's obviously a lot of steps that happen between the conveyancer paying that money across and us taking transfer of our units. There's obviously all properties change hands in South Africa via the deeds office. So the deeds office needs to process the transfer of ownership, but that's roughly the process that takes place. And it takes place over a period of, depending on how lucky you are, between 4 and 10 weeks, depending a lot on the deeds office.
Thank you so much for that, Andrew. Mpume wants to know, did I hear you correct that you will focus on short-term rentals like vacations, etc.? In other words, you do not have a fixed term contract? If no, how do you intend to keep the demand high, thus avoiding properties without any occupation?
So within Easy Properties, we follow different strategies per property. This investor sounds like she's referencing some of our earlier deals where we have fixed contracts in place with a guaranteed rental income for a period of time. 410 is not that type of product. 410 we intend to specifically run as a short-term operation purely because of where it's located. It's located in Cape Town. It's located in Sea Point, which is a hugely desirable location. And we believe that there's a strong probability of earning higher returns from short stay than we would earn if we were to sign long-term fixed contracts. I hope that answers her question. How we will ensure that we aren't having any vacancies. We've got a lot of flexibility when it comes to short stay accommodation to change our pricing. And we've employed a market leading property manager in Cape Town who will make sure that our units are appropriately priced and ultimately attracting the right amount of interest. And just by virtue of these factors, we're very unlikely to have vacant units. It's really a matter of degree. And then not to be forgotten is that if our short stay operations are not generating the returns we want, we always have the option to fall back and sign long-term leases for these units. So we've got that flexibility, but our view is that we're going to do better from running short stay operations. Mm-hmm. And that comes from a lot of experience. There might be investors on this platform as well who've stayed at Airbnbs in Cape Town, and there's strong demand for short stay accommodation in Cape Town.
Yeah, absolutely, because people want to, experience coastal areas more, and a whole lot of other factors why you would want to be in the coast more. I, for one, absolutely. I cannot wait for Thursday. I'm tired of the city. So we've got a question regarding tax. So regarding the returns and yields, are those pre-tax numbers? So my net yield will be lower due to tax dividends. Is that true?
So every time Easy Properties purchases a property, it's purchased into a company and investors own shares in that company. So how tax works on Easy Properties is that we pay company income tax within the company that owns each of our assets. That company declares a dividend to investors into that company, so to Easy Properties investors. And that dividend that's declared, depending on if it's declared to an individual, Easy Properties will withhold dividends withholdings tax and pay that to SARS on the investor's behalf. So the income received by an investor into Easy Properties, if they're an individual, is net of tax. So that money is free and clear in your bank account. If the investor into Easy Properties is a company, that dividend is declared without any withholdings tax, and it's the investors' consideration to make sure that they pay SARS the tax that's due.
Cool. Thank you so much, Andrew. I have a question from Mukopi. He says that if I manage to invest an equal of one apartment, and at the end, when Easy Properties dispose the properties, can I be given the chance to buy it before we sell it in the open market?
So that's not something we've currently contemplated. What we will do at year 5 is solicit offers and get a feeling for what our units could sell for on the market. Investors would have the opportunity to purchase that asset if they are the highest bidder for that asset. Ultimately, our job at Easy Properties is to create the most value for our investors. So we will sell the unit to whoever will pay the most for it. And we'd love it if our investors became ultimate owners of our units. That's really our dream, right? That people invest consistently over time. And at the end of the period, they have enough money to purchase their individual units.
Absolutely. Before I get on to the next question, I just want to highlight that this will definitely be made available after this webinar a couple of days from now. Just watch out from our YouTube channel, the Easy Equities YouTube page, and then under Easy Equities, go to the Easy Properties playlist, subscribe, have your notifications on to notify you that we have uploaded this episode. You will also get it via mail, so watch out for our mails. And yeah, you'll definitely be getting this recording after. We always bring exciting IPOs onto the platform, and we already have people wanting to know, when is the next IPO and can we go to the Western Cape now?
So our next IPO is scheduled for the 1st of November. So that will be in a little bit less than 2 weeks. Just to be clear, the 410 is in the Western Cape. So if that investor hasn't invested yet, they've got an opportunity. And yeah, we currently on a schedule to try and list at least 2 assets a month. So you can look at a schedule that's we're working towards that schedule. There's a lot of complexities involved in achieving that, but roughly that's what we're aiming to do. And the community is showing us in terms of demand how quickly we can list assets. So we're doing our very best.
Thank you so much, Andrew. So in terms of communication, sometimes you will join a webinar and forget to really sign up for it or register your account or even subscribe for our communication. And because of that, you might, not get some of our emails. So please ensure that you sign up and you subscribe for our communication to ensure that you receive our mails. And also on YouTube, please ensure that you subscribe and follow us on Twitter and on Facebook as well. I think our investors are ready to go offshore. We've got a question here. When are we going outside of South Africa? We want to invest overseas now. Is that something that Easy Properties or Narrative, is looking into exploring?
Absolutely. So that's something that I most want to bring to Easy Properties. It's something that we've worked on or have been working on for more than 6 months now. It's something that's 100% going to happen. I can say that for certain. Ultimately, the reason that we haven't done that yet is that there are a number of complexities to taking money offshore and to just making sure that our money is going into the right places and is going to be the flows of money back and forth are taken care of in an efficient and not too expensive a manner. A lot of the difficulties with offshore property investment are fee structures, and moving money between different geographies can often be quite expensive, and that erodes the investment returns. But we're getting close. We're circling the bait, and within a couple of months, there's going to be some offshore investments available on Easy Properties. I totally agree with this investor. I think it's one of the coolest things that we can do as Easy Properties. We love providing access to new asset classes And offshore property has got to be one of the hardest to access asset classes as a South African. And you can bet that we're going to be bringing that in a few short weeks. I probably shouldn't have said weeks, hey? That was risky, but
I was about to say.
That's certainly my intention. And we're doing everything we can to make this a reality, and it's coming soon.
Absolutely. And I think that would be an amazing type of diversification to know that you have, exposure and access to offshore property investments. That is so cool. That would be amazing. I can't wait for that when it eventually happens. So we have another question. Is it possible to add more money monthly on the initial money invested in my Easy Properties account?
Absolutely. So there's multiple ways to deposit money into Easy Equities and Easy Properties. Can be done via debit order, so a fixed amount every month. And you can also do one-offs. So if you want to top up your deposits in a particular month, it's very possible to do that. And by a similar token, if you've invested in an IPO on Easy Properties and at a later date want to invest again, you're able to invest as many times as you want into each IPO for as long as it's open.
Ooh, here's another great question. What is the reason that it's only 70% funded by the public and not 100%?
Sure. So one of the big benefits to property investment is that you're able to access bank funding. Many fortunes have been made from people accessing bank funding to basically get more exposure to a quality asset, and you're able to make a return for yourself on money that the bank has given you. If you think about a traditional home buyer, if you're buying as an individual, you're placing a deposit of 10 to 20%, and you're accessing bank funding for the balance, for say 80% of the money. And then if your property goes up in value, you've made a return on an asset that you otherwise couldn't have afforded because the bank has given you that exposure. Properties are a terrific asset to use gearing for, or to use bank debt for, as long as it's used cautiously. And we want to give investors exposure to some bank debt and give them the potential to supercharge their returns. But we do it at a very conservative level. A 30% bank facility for a piece of property is very conservative by market standards. And it's because we want to be careful about our investors' money and provide a safe exposure to property.
We've got an investor asking us to highlight again regarding the period for selling the units. Can we just maybe highlight that again, when we intend on selling the units and so forth? So
we've given the indication that we'd look to sell the units somewhere between year 5 and year 7. And just to reiterate the reason for that, property investment is a longer term investment. And by staying invested in property for a longer period of time, what you are allowing is for rental escalations to kick in. So every year, the value of your rental income on your property increases. And you're also allowing the possibility of capital appreciation. So over a 5-year period, you're getting a number of rental escalations, and there's the potential that the value of your property has increased quite materially over that stage. But you need to stay invested for a long time. It's not the type of asset that you buy today and sell next month.
Absolutely, definitely not hot cakes. I think we had 2 similar questions, so I'm going to just encapsulate them into one. I wish to hear more about the 30% bank option. Does it work like leverage in CFDs?
It's similar in the sense that the bank is providing Easy Properties investors with 30% of the money required to purchase a property. It's not similar to CFDs in the sense that CFDs are typically a much higher percentage. So it's a completely different risk appetite. CFDs are you putting down I don't know, 10 to 30% of the purchase price, and the bank's coming up with 70 to 90% of the price. That's categorically far more risky. We're capping our bank debt at 30% and putting in 70% of our own money. So it's not the same as CFDs.
Thank you so much for that, Andrew. Before we end, I'll just take one last question, and it's regarding dividends and auctions. But before I get onto the question or into the question, there is a dividends and auctions calendar on our website. And, if you want to check out which properties are going to be paying dividends and when, and which properties will be on auction and when, we do have the two calendars on our website. So just check that out. So regarding auctions, Spiso wants to know, he says, I was looking at the dividend calendar for other properties where some properties make about R1.90 per share. Does this mean that it's R1.90 per share on quarterly?
So that number, I just want to be careful around that number. So we on Easy Properties, each share has a value of R1 at IPO. So it's unlikely that the dividend per share is going to be R1.90. So just to caution that. But any numbers that you see presented on the dividend calendar are for that quarter. So it's definitely a quarterly number. And that's the number that you expected to receive every 3 months.
Absolutely. So I think we have reached the end of this webinar. Thank you so much, Andrew. I learn a lot from you every time we have these webinars, and I'm sure all our investors do. You give us so much insight, and you always, ensure us why we would want to not miss out on an IPO that's active, during that season. I, for one, have invested in all of them. So I would assume everyone that's here, is as curious as I am and wants in on all the properties on our platform. So if you joined us late, you've just signed up for Easy Properties. There is a lot of information on our website. We've got blogs, we've got an FAQ section where you can just type in, literally an answer, a question that you might have about our platform, about literally anything property related, and that FAQ will be able to answer your question. We also have, social media. We have our YouTube page that literally answers the questions about how to start investing, why invest into property, why does property investments, minimum and maximums and all of that jazz, is on available for all our new and I don't want to say old, but existing investors on our platform. So thank you so much again, Andrew, for, just making time all the time to avail yourself to chat to us about property investing. And I can't wait to but see you at Cape Town at 4-0. And I'm sure, after you have, to all our investors, those that have attended the webinar and hadn't RSVP'd or invested into the property, I'm sure now you know enough about it to want to either join us on Thursday or to, put down your investment and get a piece of this pie. So yeah, that is it from us, from me and Andrew and everyone that attended. Thank you so much for making time. And I hope this was valuable. And as I mentioned, it will be made available to you.
Thank you, Bonolo, and thank you to everyone for listening in.
Cheers. Thank you so much, Andrew. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye.
And you guys. Bye-bye.